in our last day of the strike series for the spring 2020 semester. Our program assistant, Ms. Bryant, came up with this idea as a way for us to have digital engagement with our students as we are in a very different learning environment, particularly as a result of the novel coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. So today our speaker is one of our student success coaches, Mr. Frantzley Moise, who's also a graduate of Florida A&M University. And he will be talking today about being greater. He will give
Being
you a
greater.
better explanation than what I just said. Nonetheless, thank you to our faculty who are on the call with us as well, and also Ms. Shelton, who is the clinical placements coordinator. So Ms. Bryan, if you could add Mr. Moise as a host, then we will be able to see his screen and we can go ahead and get started. And we'll have questions at the end from our esteemed faculty and staff members who are on our call.
Awesome. First off, good morning. Well, I should say good afternoon. I'm going ahead and share the screen. I hope everybody can see it. If you can see it, give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. All right. I wanted to start off with the poem because it is National Poem Month. We never know how high we are until we're called to rise. And then if we are true to plan, our stature touch the skies. The heroism we recite will be a daily thing. Do not ourselves acute a strap for fear to be a king or queen. When I started this journey with a university, I stated that poem to a group of students on, I believe, the first day. I think it's important for us to remember that we are seated on the highest of seven hills, but we have so much more ways or length that we can go. So today I wanted to talk about what it means to be greater. Most of you know when you see me in the hallways or you pass by me in the class or whatever, my tagline is, I am working on greater. And this strike series was really a testament to that. We are working on greater, and every single one of the presenters actually added a little piece of knowledge that would help us to be greater students, greater educators, and greater professionals. All right, so Mr. Martin Gillum and Mrs. Patricia Hunt talked about what it means to be in the now. So in the series, I broke them down into 3 points: now, next, and later. And when I heard Mr. Martin and Mrs. Hunt's presentation, I thought about the now. What do I need to do now to be a complete student, academically, mentally, emotionally, socially? What are some of the things that I have to do to enhance myself so that I can be greater in the now? Then we move on to the next. We had some great presenters, Mrs. Naomi Bell, Mr. Vincent McGee, Mrs. Jones. They all talked about what's next. We need to be ready for the next. What's going to happen next semester? What's going to happen when I go on internship? What's going to happen my first year, my second year, my third year of teaching? What are some of the challenges that I would face? What are some of the obstacles that will come my way? What are some of the victories that I will receive by being an educator? So we have to be thinking about the next. And they brought some great insight and some great perspective on what the next will be. And then we moved on to the later. Mrs. April Friedman and Mr. Oh, Mr. Melvin Middleton actually talked about what's going to happen next. How are we going to progress as professionals, as students? What do we need to look at and think about uh, beyond the classroom? You know, should I be thinking about becoming an assistant principal, a dean, an advisor, a counselor? Um, and then going beyond just that into administration. Should I go to the district office and work on policies and hopefully become the superintendent? Can I work for the Department of Education? You know, and then can I go beyond just that, the classroom, and can I go into the boardroom where I'm working with nonprofit and for-profit organizations to make a difference? And even going beyond the boardroom, it's talked about how having an education degree will serve you long after you graduated from the highest of seven hills. So you can use this degree in so many ways, but we need to be thinking about the now, the next, and the later. Um, as I watched each of the sessions, I kept asking myself, well, why is this information important? Why do I have to, you know, listen to this stuff? And is it going to add value to my educational experience? The key word was why. It kept coming up. So I want to show you a video. I'm going to pop this up for you. Share my screen. As I show the video, I want you to think about, you know, write down one thing that you learned from watching the video. It's not long. Let's see, share. But it's very powerful. Let me know if you guys can see it. Thumbs up. Okay, here we go. Uh, I'm really having some technical difficulties. Okay. All right, it looks like I'm having some real technical difficulties on this end. But the presenter asked us 4 questions. Why? Why not? Why? Oh, there it is. No. Okay. It's really okay. It's really messed up. I don't even know if I have you guys me right now. I don't know if I have you with me.
Ms. Bryant, can you stop recording?
I completely went out. Anyways, the author in the video talked about 3 points. Why not you, and why not now? And essentially, that's what we should be thinking about. Uh, why is it important for us to be our best and to give our best? And why shouldn't we be the ones to do that, to be greater in every way, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom? At some point in the semester, I walked into a classroom and I asked a group of students to tell me what is driving them. What's your drive word? What's important to you? Why is the work that you're doing and the reason you're here such a factor? And I challenge each of them to challenge each student to give me a drive word. So I want to continue to do the same. You have to remember what that drive word is. And Ms. Miller, you remember yours?
Yes, you remember when I couldn't remember it? When you said it this time, it stuck with me. It was impact.
Impact. Love it. Yes. And that's what we need to make. We need to make an impact. And as you continue your educational experience, that's what you're going to do. You're going to be making an impact right now. You're going to be making an impact when you move on to your next level. And you're going to be making an impact later on in your future. So I love that word, impact. I challenge everyone that's also listening, that's administration, staff. I want you all to also do the same. What's your guide word? What's pushing you? When you're tired, when you don't want to do that extra step, when you don't want to make that extra call, what's that button? What's that word that's pushing you to continue the process? To be greater, we have to be our best. We have to be better than our best. My acronym for BEST is we first must believe, give our best effort. We have to stay in the game, and we must continue to train. In each of the sessions, that's essentially what they talked about. What is it going to take for us to be the best? To be greater, we must continue to fight the war. For some of you, I've talked about what war means. My acronym for war is working against regret. If we don't do what we need to do right now, we will regret it later. If we don't do the next step, we will regret it later. So our future selves are counting on us right now to be our best and to give our best. To be greater, we must continue to rise. As I stated in the poem, we must continue to rise higher than we are right now. And as you all know, we're on the highest of 7 hills, but there's a lot more space in the sky for us to continue to grow, continue to be better, and continue to be greater. But it all starts right now. We got to be thinking about the next, and we should be ready for the later. Any questions? About the video. I thought the video would make a great impact, but Mrs. Bryan, I guess I'll just re-record this session so that you'll have this for our archives. Now, before we all leave, because I know it's Friday, I didn't want to keep this long. I definitely wanted to make it powerful. I want each of you to tell me what's your guide word. What's your word that's pushing you to the next, pushing you to greater? So we can end on that note. If everybody can tell me their word, and move on to the rest of our weekend.
You gave me my guide word. You told me it was presence. That my presence.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yes. We have to be a presence. We have to be a presence. And it's funny, Dr. Roberts, because we're not present with each other, but we are very present. We're making a difference. And that's what we need to continue to do. The work that we're doing now is what our students are seeing. They're seeing your presence. So when they go into the classroom, they will be present with their students. Next, anybody else? You can also type it into the chat. I see Mr. Martin put effort. It's okay to receive an overview. Okay. All right. So who is that? Miss Smith? An overview of everything that we've talked about is essentially what is it going to take for us to be greater? That was the premise of this workshop. And for us to be greater, we need to start thinking about the now, the next, and the later. What do I need to do now to be a greater student? What do I need to do next in terms of my internships, in terms of my going into my professional role as a first year, second year, third year teacher? And then what do I want to do later in terms of after working in the classroom environment? Do I want to go out and work in administration? Do I want to go out and work in for-profit and nonprofit organizations? So this presentation was essentially an overview of all of the presentations that we have experienced through this strike series. And then on a last note, I wanted us to continue to drive and continue to rise to higher heights. So it's important for us to know what we're driving for. So what is that? What's your reason? What's your why? What's your drive? So I asked the group to tell me what their drive word is. What's that word that's pushing you? So we heard impact, effort, and presence. Everybody else can type in or share with the group. And after that, we will call it a wrap if there is no more questions. Explain that, Ms. Bryant.
This person.
That's a good reason to continue to rise. You know, that has been, and I've done this particular activity with a number of my workshops and trainings. And what has always impacted me the most and the audience as well is when somebody gives me a name of a person. It might be their mom, it might be their grandma, it might be their child. It's always impactful when it's a person that's driving you to be your best, to be greater, to work harder. So I love it when I get that response, because you know you got to go hard, you know, to ensure that she has everything she wants and needs to be her very best. All righty.
Hey, well, thank you, Mr. Moise. Like I was saying earlier, we will have to record this again, and then that way you can put your videos and everything else, and it'll be more seamless before we publish it on the YouTube. But thank you for participating in our strike series. And Dr. Roberts, we can talk more about whether you think the viability of doing it for summer A is worth it, or, you know, times and all that.
Once we see who actually signs up for classes, because I always pull the rosters to make sure kids got in the right class they're supposed to get in, then we'll have a good idea of the times things are and the count we have.
Yeah, so we can keep our consistency, you know,
Right.
with the series, and maybe then professors could also just use it in their classes or something like
Right.
that. So we could talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that. But thank you all for participating in our strike series, and hopefully we'll be able to continue this through summer A. If not summer A, definitely summer B. And again, thank you so much for participating.